this and that and what the fuck else, episode 150. And this one I'm talking about BRICS, some gender stuff, Middle East, a lot of things about the Middle East. The Middle East is something that we must keep an eye on. And then I've got some stuff from the Ukraine and the WEF. And what the fuck that is. I have done similar what the fucks in the past, but this one, we just have to look at it and ask ourselves, what the fuck is that? In any case, let's go. Those who killed Muammar Gaddafi come to teach us about democracy today. The Zambian opposition leader, Fred Mbembe, condemns the US hypocrisy during US Vice President Kamala Harris' visit to Africa. Very true, and take note of it. In the past week, a lot of African leaders is openly now rejecting the US. And then we get to BRICS. South African Sherpa in BRICS, Anil Suklal, on Putin's participation in the August summit. We have confirmation that all leaders will attend the summit. All leaders will attend the summit. Russia did not claim otherwise. The invitation was sent by President Ramaphosa, which President Putin thanked. And we are preparing for the fact that all the leaders will be present in South Africa. Our cabinet of ministers is busy discussing the issues. We are preparing for a full-fledged summit. And those that are wringing their hands and digging in their noses about the ICC warrant, forget it. And to the DA, go and jump in the fucking sea, man. We are BRICS, not the WEF. You are the WEF puppets, not us. Then there's this. US House Speaker Kevin McCarthy met with Taiwan leader Tsai Ing-wen in California on Wednesday. And then Briekmerke says, Taiwan has been part of China several centuries longer than Hawaii has been part of the US. Hawaii was invaded and annexed by the USA. Can you imagine the consequences if China started arming independence movements in Hawaii? Very valid, very legitimate question. And then we get to the pestilence. Startling new figures show even more Australians are dying than first feared, after a report found excess deaths are the highest since World War II. People don't want to talk about it. Well, whether people want to talk about it or not, they better take note of it. And then there was this. Along with the Israeli study showing a 30% decrease in speed counts that supposedly recovers, this should be a nail in the coffin. Dr. Arne Burkhardt confirms sperm has been almost entirely replaced by spike proteins. This is really serious. And then there's this. No bambinos. Italian births plummet to historic low. Only 400,000 births were recorded in 2022. The National Statistics Bureau said on Friday, confirming that the country's population is continuing to shrink. There were 12 deaths for every 7 births in 2022, and the resident population fell by 179,000 to 58.85 million. The situation considered a national emergency is down to the reduction and the aging of the female population in the 15 to 49 age group, conventionally considered reproductive, the institutes said. Well, that is happening all over the world. And then we get to the gender thing and listen to what this meme says. If a vagina doesn't make you a woman, how come lipstick, high heels and a handbag do? That is a very, very valid question. And then there's this one. Ukraine. Transgender women weep as authorities classify them as men who must stay and fight. Remember when we were told about Ukraine and Western values? Seems like these Western values are only adhered to when it suits them. Good, let them go. And then this is absolutely shocking. A TV program launched in the UK to familiarise minors with the naked bodies of adults. The show is called Naked Education, where teens 14 to 16 years old are invited and adult perverts undress in front of them. The UK is going down the drain of child molestation, covering up pedophilia with statements about education. Earlier, the same thing was done in the Netherlands, where new transgender people performed for children. What the fuck is wrong with the world? The Western world. And more on the gender. Uganda's parliament passed a law against homosexuality. A member of Uganda's parliament gave a passionate speech in the parliament in favor of the law against homosexuality. Our country will have our morals. We will protect our children. We are making this law for ourselves. We are making the law for our children, was the parliamentarian's view, and the majority of the other parliamentarians supported him, unlike many of those in Europe. And that is it. The West is rotting. And then we get to this, which is interesting. Russia has risen to the second place in the world in terms of cryptocurrency mining. The volume of capacities involved in the production of cryptocurrencies amounted to 1 gigawatt. The US remains the leader with 3 to 4 gigawatt of mining capacity. But Russia is mining. And then there's this image, you just can look at it just for the hell of it. At the top, Putin and Xi in Moscow, sitting and talking. And then look what happens here in China with Macron and von der Leyen. Look how far they sit away from Xi. And then look at the bottom picture. On the left is Putin and on the right is Macron. Something tells me they don't like that Frenchman. And this is something that the Israelis should take note of. The attacks on the Al-Aqsa Mosque is a red line for us, and Turkey will not remain silent about such aggression, Erdogan. And more about that mosque. Tel Aviv's unhinged. Israeli forces once again raid Al-Aqsa Mosque, break and desecrate the religious sanctities and beat up the Muslim worshippers. Israeli forces also prevented emergency crews from entering the area to treat the injured, as they continue to attack on a Muslim holy site during Ramadan for the second day running, with no condemnation heard from the West torchbearers of the democracy. And that is so true. The West is quiet about this. This is wrong. A video from this morning documenting Israeli occupation's terrorism against peaceful, unarmed worshippers inside Al-Aqsa Mosque. I watched that video. It was crazy what was happening there. Really crazy. And there's more image from it. I cannot understand how this happens. I cannot understand. And then this is something that the world should take note of. Exclusive. Saudi Omani delegation to hold ceasefire talks with Yemen's Houthis in Sana'a. Saudi Arabia has decided to end the Yemen war. The Saudi Omani delegation is planning to travel to Yemen's capital, Sana'a, next week to hash out a permanent ceasefire deal with the Houthis officials and end the country's 8-year-old conflict, two sources involved in the talks have said. Now, just for the sake, just before I started recording this program, I saw a news article. The Saudi delegation is already in Yemen. Things are moving very fast in the Middle East. Then we have this. Turkish President Erdogan to Iranian President Raisi. The Muslim world must unite against the Israeli aggression against the Palestinians. Guys, those Israelis better wake up. They are cruising for a bruising. And then more on Yemen. Saudi Arabia has decided to end the war in Yemen. Riyadh has informed Yemen's presidential leadership council of its decision to end the war and close the Yemen file once and for all. Al Mayadeen reported today. In addition, Ashaq al-Awasat said that the new efforts are being made to resolve the Yemen crisis, which is now in its 9th year, and informed Yemeni source said that comprehensive peace documents is being drafted. With the support of the United Nations, the finishing touches are being put on the draft, which will cover several phases. The first phase of peace will include a nationwide ceasefire, resumption of all land, air and sea routes, central bank mergers and prisoner exchange deals. I'm really, really happy that this is finally happening. Those Yemenis does not deserve what is happening. And this is just an interesting piece of information about NATO, and this is their interventions and their locations and the years. Anchor Guard, Kuwait, Iraq, 1990. Ace Guard, Kuwait, Iraq, 91. Operation Joint Guard, Bosnia, 92. Operation Allied Force, Kosovo, 99. Afghanistan War of 2003. Training Mission, Iraq, 2004. Operation Ocean Shield, Somalia, 2009. Military intervention in Libya, 2011. My question is, what the fuck did they need for going into those countries and destroy those countries? Those countries were not threatening them, but they go in and they bomb the people to pieces. But their time is up. And then this is something that I have spoken about a few times, mentioned it, and it's coming up again. Briekmerke informed about the death of NATO military leaders in an underground bunker in Lviv. Expert Alexei Podberezhkin explained why the West is silent about the liquidation of NATO generals by Russian aerospace forces. It is known that the strike on Ukraine, which allegedly killed high-ranking NATO generals, was inflicted by Russia on March 9. The media claim that the coffins with the bodies of the dead were sent to the United States. Among other things, high-precision King Charles missiles were used. But the Western media is quiet about this, not a chap. And then there was this. Gilbert Doktorov talks on Press TV about the Russian King-style missile strike on the NATO bunker in Lvov, which allegedly killed 200 NATO officers. At the conclusion of my time on air, I brought up another major event of the past month, which also was blacked out by the broadcasters, namely the destruction of an underground bunker near the western Ukraine city of Lvov by a Russian hypersonic missile, which cost the lives of more than 200 NATO generals and other high military officers, including about 20 Americans. That event, which first was announced very discreetly on Russian news tickers, immediately following its execution was again quietly and briefly mentioned on the Yandex ticker yesterday with respect to the shipment in crates of the recovered remains of those officers killed in their home countries in the West. I don't know, they don't want to say, they're quiet about it, but it was a hell of a shot that took that bunker out. But the problem is, if they come out with the facts and they tell us the truth, then nobody can deny that NATO is actively involved in Ukraine. And let's change the pace. How to cook shulin, a traditional soup of Eastern Siberian nomads. Shulin is a traditional soup that originated with the Buryat people, an ethnic group in Russia that lives in the areas near Lake Baikal and Eastern Siberia. A hearty soup, shulin, was developed to sustain the Buryat nomads during long journeys. Historically, they herded cattle, sheep and goats. And that looks quite hearty, I would say. Let's get back to the ugly. In the Ukraine, another Orthodox church was burned. A church in Nikolaev region was destroyed. Now my question is, where the fuck are the people of the West? The West is supposed to be Christians. Look at this. But it's because their fucking favorite Zazi pet is doing it, so they are quiet. It's just like your favorite dog catching your neighbor's chickens. You will never confess. And more of that. Demolishment of Ukrainian Orthodox Church underway in Lvov to make way for a cathedral for the pro-Kiev Orthodox Church of Ukraine. Destroying a church. And then there's this about that Orthodox Church will seek the return of the Kiev Persk Lavra through court. Lawyer Nikita Chekman announced the filing of the relevant lawsuit. The Holy Domination of Kiev Perchursk Lavra, the monastery, the Ukrainian Orthodox Church filed a petition to return religious buildings and structures to the property of the religious community. But let's see how far they're going to get in that Ukrainian courts. And then we have this, which is quite disturbing for the fucking Aussies. Creepy robot dogs are now being used to patrol neighborhoods in Australia. Thanks to the collaboration between the Ghost Robotics and the Australian military, soldiers can now control robot dogs with their minds. It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, but that's what's happening right now. I hope the Aussies take note. And then the blast from the past in South Africa. As a 60s kid, nothing more exciting than going on a road trip and stopping at a lay-by for sardine samis and a coffee with evaporated milk. Do these lay-bys still exist? Is it safe to stop? Well, they do still exist, but you are fucking crazy if you stop there, unless you are a big crowd. And then more from South Africa. And listen to what this Gavin Davis says. There's a newspaper headline that says, ACDP, Raisem Mzansi rejects the Nations coalition. This is that moonshot shit from the DA. And then this guy says, this is a real shame. Hope these parties reconsider. Time to rise above petty politics. Petty politics. These fucking DA people are supporting that shit of the rainbows and the jabs, and they are WEF puppets. If you are a Christian, you cannot vote for that party. That's all I'm saying. Specifically on the gender shit. That's enough reason to steer clear. And then you get to that what a fuck moment, and I have spoken about this and showed pictures about this, but look at this again. Think what you are seeing. Look carefully. This is Joe Biden. There's fucking 9 Bidens, man. How many Bidens are there really? When is somebody going to dig and get to the bottom of this shit? This is not the same guy. But this is what we are being dished up for. What the hell is wrong in America? They see these things, but they shut up and just take it. That is why it was so easy to fuck them over with a pestilence. Thank you very much for your support. Please look in the description under the video. There is a link if you would like to support the channel financially and you live in South Africa. I would appreciate that. Have a great evening. Give me a like, and a subscribe, and a share. Thank you.